Studio Ghibli is often considered a master studio of classic films, producing countless movies that can easily be enjoyed decades after their additional debuts. Spirited Away, for example, is still considered a favourite of millions of anime fans across the globe, despite having premiered over 2 decades ago. Ghibli films simply hold an unparalleled magic, and talents like Hayao Miyazaki are able to capture a timeless charm and a seductive sense of nostalgia in every production that they direct. However, it's films like Spirited Away that set a certain standard for Ghibli. Some of the studio's productions, even if they still possess qualities typical of a Ghibli film, haven't always met the expectation of fans who've fallen in love with Ghibli's brand of cinematic charisma. These movies tend to fall short on the delight and magic that has made the appeal of Spirited Away and other titles so endearing over the years. Welcome to Popcorn Program. Here is our list of the 5 worst Studio Ghibli films ever. Pap pap! In number 5 we have Porco Rosso, which was a charming film that did miss the mark, and this was written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. A historical adventure set in the aftermath of World War I, Ghibli's Porco Rosso is a thrilling tale about an ace pilot who becomes the infamous bounty hunter known as Porco Rosso, a name he dons after falling victim to a curse that turned him into a pig. When his precious plane is damaged, Porco reluctantly hires the young and talented Fio Piccolo to handle the repairs and modifications, and her spunk and talent turned out to be everything Porco needed to face the man who gunned him and his plane down in the first place. Released in July of 1992, Porco Rosso earned around $1.3 million in international box offices, becoming one of the lowest grossing films to come out of Studio Ghibli. It's also become the legendary Hayao Miyazaki's worst performing film to date, regardless of the fact that it's gained a decent fan base that does appreciate its story. Although an enjoyable film in its own right, with its charismatic main protagonist and equally charming female lead, Porco Rosso's tone felt different from what is generally found appealing about most Ghibli movies. The movie wasn't meant for children as it contained more adult themes. Still, as something geared more toward an adult audience, the story felt lacking. Porco Rosso's plot felt too simplistic. A film doesn't necessarily need to have a complicated storyline to captivate older viewers, but the development of side characters like Fio and the behaviour of the Sky Pirates felt one-dimensional and childish. There was also a supposed romance between Porco and Fio, but there was little to no romantic tension between the pair, which made the kiss during the finale feel as though it came out of absolutely nowhere. In number 4 we have Pom Poko, which is a cultural comedy with shocking elements written and directed by Isao Takahata. Another addition to Ghibli's collection of films that champion nature, Pom Poko is a comedic story with a heavy message about the dangers of humanity's ever-expanding civilization and how the growth of cities often come at the cost of the natural world. This conflict is presented in the point of view of the Tanuki clans, who are losing adequate territory and have their livelihoods threatened by the borders of Tokyo encroaching onto their lands. Pom Poko is a Studio Ghibli original, released in the summer of 1994 and earning around about $1.2 million at the box office. Despite being an award-winning production, it is still one of the studio's lowest grossing movies, especially in comparison to Spirited Away's $347 million. Mostly due to the cultural barriers when it reached the audiences outside of Japan. Many platforms have rated Pom Poko as a generally safe family film, with MyAnimeList listing children as the movie's demographic. However, not only the depictions of cartoonish violence, as well as on-screen deaths that aren't exactly suitable for younger audiences, but the Tanuki are also shown transforming an inappropriate part of their anatomy to aid them in their fierce battles against mankind. Even if watching without the presence of younger viewers though, many Ghibli fans in the West found this aspect of the film bizarre. The Tanuki and their abilities are a big part of Japanese folklore, and similar to the Monogatari series, it's difficult for Western audiences to appreciate the full breadth of Pom Poko's comedy and significance without being familiar with the culture or the language. In number 3 we have Tales from Earthsea, which was a listless adaptation narrated by Goro Miyazaki, and the story was by Ursula Le Guin. I may have mispronounced that name, so I apologise in advance. Tales from Earthsea is a loose adaptation of Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea literary series, detailing a world filled with an epic conflicts of dragons, mages, and the power of true names. The main protagonist, Aaron, is a prince fleeing from his troubles as he begins travelling alongside an Archmage, Sparrowhawk, and eventually comes to meet a mysterious girl with a distinctive birthmark. As the debut film of Goro Miyazaki, who was the son of Hayao Miyazaki, Tales from the Earthsea reached number 1 in the Japanese box office during the first week of its release in July 2006 and became one of Studio Ghibli's highest grossing movies. However, it also became one of the lowest rated films for its poor retelling of a beloved fantasy novel series. Tales from Earthsea was a disappointing adaptation that even the author of the source material didn't appreciate. Fans claim that, although beautifully animated, Goro Miyazaki's work butchered the fantastical tale written by Ursula Le Guin and tried to cram too much of the original novels into just one film, created a messy 2-hour movie with a plotline that was difficult to place. Goro Miyazaki did introduce a very intriguing world that still earned the film some love, but the build-up of the plot took most of the runtime. As a result, it was an almost insufferably long wait for the story to finally pick up the pace. The main protagonist, Aaron, also wasn't very proactive in his own story, becoming frustratingly compliant in a story that pulled him in whatever direction was needed. In number 2, we have Ocean Waves, which is a lackluster love story narrated by Tomomi Mochizuki and written by Saiko Himuro and Kaiko Niwa. Ocean Waves follows the perspective of Taku Morizaki as he reminisces about his experiences in the later years of high school, particularly the moments concerning his best friend Yutaka and a Tokyo girl named Rikoko. Rikoko is an academically gifted, athletic and phenomenally beautiful girl. The issue is that she has a personality trait that tends to gain her more enemies than allies. Though that didn't stop Yutaka from falling for her and Taku from getting roped into her troublesome endeavours. Released in May of 1993, Ocean Waves became the worst performing film to have come out in Studio Ghibli. It grossed less than $0.1 million in the US box office. That is in part due to the film's limited release, but this slice of life drama also falls on the short side when it comes to plot and the themes it was trying to study. It clocked in at only an hour and 12 minutes to tell a story that fails to capture the essence of youth and nostalgia. Ocean Waves possessed a cast of interesting personalities, but the story was largely uneventful and lacked true excitement. The main characters have very little chemistry with one another, absent any true romantic tension that would have been expected of a film that was categorized as a romantic drama. The movie also feels as though it was cut short, ending at the moment when Taku finally realised he actually had feelings for Rikoko the whole time. The film did well in detailing Rikoko's family situation, showing how she was just a young girl who was deeply affected by her parents' divorce. However, although that was relatable, she was never portrayed in any likeable or positive light despite being the protagonist's main love interest, which greatly contributed to audiences' poor reception of the movie. And in at number 1, we have Earwig and the Witch, which was a charmless experiment, directed by Goro Miyazaki, and the story was by Diane Wynne-Jones. Earwig and the Witch is another Ghibli film adapting the works of Diana Wynne-Jones, who also wrote the source material of Ghibli's romantic classic Howl's Moving Castle. Narrated by Goro Miyazaki, this 2021 movie is about an orphan girl named Aya, who is dismayed to find out that she has been adopted by an actual witch, but she soon starts to realise that her new life may not be so bad, and that her new guardians might share more of a connection with her than she initially thought. Earwig and the Witch was released at the tail end of 2020, and became Studio Ghibli's first and so far only 3D animated film. It only grossed around $726,747 worldwide, and partly due to the multiple shutdowns across the world in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. It would debut on HBO Max immediately after for home viewing, but it quickly fell to the bottom tier of Ghibli's flops. Due to the deviation from the acclaimed studio's usual style of animation, as well as Goro Miyazaki's performance from Tales from Earthsea, Earwig and the Witch was already under heavy scrutiny even before its debut. Countless Ghibli fans around the world found themselves missing Ghibli's iconic 2D style, finding the experimental 3D animation to be a removal of the very thing that gives Ghibli films a unique essence. The execution of Earwig and the Witch also did not offer the same sense of completion as many of Ghibli's best performing productions. It's widely agreed that the finale of Aya's tale felt very abrupt, ending at the cusp of her adventure and cutting to the credits right after the appearance of her birth mother. This film was better suited as a pilot to a series rather than a single standalone film. And there you have it, there is our list. What do you think? What is your least favourite Studio Ghibli film ever? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button if you're new around here. That's all for now, so I'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Pop pop!